Hey, we've been talking about the words and their value all week and last week. And today we're going to talk about the word mistake. So it would be a mistake not to listen as we explore what it means and why it might not be an effective word choice as you try to grow personally and in your business and leadership endeavors. All that coming up on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom. Middle of the week. We're rocking and rolling.
Nice. Yeah, my sinuses kicked up last night for some reason. Woo!
Mine are starting this morning. I can feel it. My eyes are a little scratchy. And
yeah, it's usually later than I have had it. And I guess that's just the way it goes sometimes.
It would be a mistake to think about it too much.
Maybe. Or maybe not. I guess we think about it. Can it really be a mistake?
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes, probably. We should wait. We should hold off on that for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, welcome everyone to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast. As we have done for over 500 episodes, we have a conversation around a topic. And this week's topic, as Bob said in the introduction, is a word's value. And these are words that I've tried to use a lot less because I find that the value doesn't necessarily help me. And I think that's an important thing to remember. Somebody mentioned, actually, they said to me last night, I think you might be right about the words right and wrong. And I said, well, that was not my intent. My intent was to share what is real for me. And that if you believe that that might be real for you, awesome. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right or wrong. So I think it has sparked some interest for people to consider the words that they choose. So anyway, as we go through our conversation today, if you have some thoughts that you would like to share, feel free to put them in the comments, whether you are watching us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live.
We welcome your comments. And at the end of the show, if we will each share our one thing, our today's antidote, that thing that we hope might add value to your day or to you sometime that you can use sometimes down the road to help you take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. And so with that, we, start every episode with our celebrations. What are you celebrating today, Bob?
I'm celebrating the ability of employees to adapt to different situations. Over the course of the last few days, I've been working with the company, and a couple of the employees have really had to adapt. One had to go do a service call in about 2 hours away from where he lived, and it was assigned to him late in the day, and he went. And he went into a storm, and he went into bad traffic, and he did it. Another employee dealt with another difficult situation. So we sometimes forget, I think, that employees and others aren't, that they have lives and that they have things. But when they step up and really do something special, it's really something that makes a company grow and expand and really makes me happy to be involved with certain companies.
I like that. Yes, I think sometimes we forget what our employees go through when they are trying to just complete their job, given all the other things that they have going on in their world.
We kind of assume that they're going to be there and do perfectly. And sometimes you just see it like this was not as easy as it looked.
And then every day they're going to show up exactly the same.
Right. So what do you celebrate today, Tom?
I was trying to think about that. I think I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to do a non-work thing and do the nice weather today.
Okay.
Supposed to be very nice. And I don't think I have a game tonight, which is nice. So I'm celebrating good weather and the opportunity to enjoy it.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Bob, do you have something for our Renegades today?
I don't have anything set up. I was trying to find something in the old book, but it's not coming to me.
You want to pick a page and I'll read it?
Yeah. Well, here.
Or you want me to pick a page for you?
Yeah, you pick a page.
What's the total? What's the highest number page there is? I can't remember.
110. No, 108.
Let's go with 86.
86. Any reason why that number? Because that's more fascinating to me than the information on it.
Yes, that is the year of my high school graduation.
That's what I thought.
Shows how old I am. Or how young I am.
Yeah, we picked a bad page. It's all a story. There's nothing really useful in it. Every now and then I told a story.
Read a line. Maybe someone will find value in it.
Okay. One day I decided to charge a man who came in with a tailored suit and cufflinks. This is when I was selling resumes right at the end of my college years. One day I decided to charge a man who was in a tailored suit and cufflinks the highest price possible, at least in my mind. I announced a fee of $1,000. That was more than triple what I normally charged, and expected him to leave. I even threw in 20 copies of the new resume and a carefully crafted cover letter on heavy bond cream-colored paper, 2 upsells I thought I needed to offer with such a high price. He needed no enticement. Not only did he agree to my terms, he signed a check for the full amount right there. I practically died of surprise. I wanted to ask him what he was thinking, but knew I might ruin a good thing. 5 days later, he returned for his resumes. We met, he reviewed the resume and cover letter, and he loved them. Unlike most of my other clients, he made no changes. I printed copies and off he went. A week later, he left a message for me to call him. I immediately thought he found a typo or another error. I put off the call for as long as I could tolerate. I wish I'd called him sooner. He answered on the first ring and told me the following. It worked. You did it. I got a great job, and it was all that resume you wrote. You are brilliant. And he believed every word of it.
Did you?
No.
You know what? I actually think that's a great story for today.
Okay.
Because there's value. And sometimes we don't determine the value that people place on things, which is one of the challenges, right? As we talk about words, and I use the word right, correct? We don't understand always the way people put a value on things. Could even be words. You thought, how could I be charging this guy $1,000? Which it sounds like you did because of the way he was dressed. And you thought he could afford it.
Keep in mind, I was 21 years old. This is not last week.
Sounds like you think I'm making a judgment on this. I am not.
I did get defensive. I'm sorry. I'm back.
He desperately needed this for a job that he really wanted to get.
Needed. He was unemployed.
So the value for him to have a really good resume was super high. He likely would have paid whatever it took to get that resume because he needed the job. And so I think that it's similar to a word that we choose to use and how much value we place on it and what the response might be based on the way we use that word, especially if the person we might be talking to or who's talking to us doesn't understand the value that we place on it.
Right.
So never assume that you know the value someone places on something that they need. And you can never know that.
Right.
So to consider that a quote unquote mistake, which you might have at the time, said, oh man, I just made a mistake. I told him it was going to be $1,000. How could you ever know whether or not what that meant to him? And I think that's the key word with the thing about mistakes. So let's just dive into it, if that's all right with you.
Sure, let's go.
It is, to me, when we think about mistakes, it's just a judgment on what happened, of something can't control. Like, we did the best we could at the moment that we had to make that decision or offer those words or do the thing we did. Hopefully, we did the best that we could. And I honestly believe that every time we do something, we do the best that we could. And just because we can't remember everything doesn't mean that we have to judge it as right or wrong, or what we're talking about today, mistake. And I think if you use the word right or wrong a lot, you might want to listen to yesterday's episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a good conversation about the value of those words and why, at least I believe, that they have less value for me. What do you think about the word mistake?
I think it is. I'm struggling through this. I think I use it often. I think of making mistakes often. It's funny to me that I used it in what I read, and we just randomly picked a page, so that would suggest that it's pretty prevalent in my life. I feel like I create mistakes often. I think I think I do things wrong. Yes, I use the word wrong. I second guess myself a lot. I did something yesterday and I'm really second guessing myself about today, and I don't know the answer. And I think the key to this, to me, is what you keep saying, and I'm starting to finally get it and understand it, which is the power of these words and the ideas behind them is that it slows you down or stops you. The time I spend thinking about a mistake is time I could be spending on doing something productive, on taking my next step, on figuring out my next step, on analyzing or evaluating what I've done up to this point, what worked, what didn't work, those things, and moving forward. I just do it now to mess with you.
I know. If you're wondering what we're talking about, Bob and I have 3 questions that we like to ask after every action, rather than just placing a judgment on them. One of the questions he just mentioned is not one of the questions.
There's a tease for y'all.
Yes.
And I think we're so conditioned as kids to think about mistakes. You made a mistake there. Oh, you shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have done that. And I think I'm really trying to unlearn that and realize that you will do things that don't work out the way you plan. It's just inevitable. If you could be perfect, believe me, I'd love to be perfect. If I could be perfect, I would have been perfect for at least a day by now.
Isn't the thought of being perfect is that you know everything and that you will do everything exactly the way it needs to be done to get the result you desire?
Well,
the result which
I think
you
perfect
normally
is
can't
complete control of everything.
Well, it goes a little bit back to control. A lot back to control.
Working through that.
I think that's the challenge for a lot of us. And I think it's interesting, you talked about it as a child. I think that there's a lot of times that we use the word mistake. I think a lot because we think that it has less impact than a word like failure, which I think we're going to talk about tomorrow.
Right.
And so to me, and I think to many others, not to me, but to others, and me probably in the past, thought that, well, if it's just a mistake, it's not that big a deal. It isn't that, it can be fixed. It can be corrected. And aren't we just telling people, especially kids, to really question what they do and why they do it? Now, maybe you would say because it is considered less significant, okay, well, they can move forward. Yet I think, how many times do we think about the time someone told us we made a mistake?
Right.
And again, thinking about mistakes made don't help us move forward. And I think about it. It's interesting why I think so often this applies to the officiating that I do. Is as you go through and review a game or a call that you just made or a setup that you just applied, administration of a file that you just applied, again, you can look at it as a mistake. Oh, I made that it's a mistake. Or you can just say, hey, what did I just do? That didn't seem like that was the correct setup. And you shake your head.
We got correct in there. That's a judgment.
No, actually,
How about most effective setup?
No, because I think that here's the difference, I think, and maybe we'll get to this and maybe we won't, is to me, correct applies to something that is a universal truth. So there is a rule book for lacrosse in the officiating that I do, girls and women's lacrosse, right? Correct? Yep. So because there is a rule book, there is a correct way to administer a foul that is universally accepted. Not everybody appreciates it. Not everybody's aware of it. Not everyone agrees with it. And yet, there is a correct administration to a foul. So that's why I think correct is a different word. It's kind of like if you ask what's 2 plus 2, and we say it's 4, then your teacher would say that is correct. Because that's a universally accepted, that addition, that's universally accepted. We're not arguing whether it's right or wrong. Someone in some other universe or whatever could have that conversation that, well, it doesn't really. But this is a made up human thing that is universally accepted. And so I think correct is not a judgment. It is an evaluation of what happened. And evaluations, in my mind, if we look at them in a certain way, allow us to move forward. So I can evaluate the administration of that file and determine if it was correct. And if it wasn't, I have the opportunity to say, all right, well, what part of it did I do well? What part didn't go as planned? Because I wasn't really expecting it. It happened out of the blue, and I sort of caught it and didn't see all of it. I didn't have help from my partner. And what would I do differently? Well, I would go and look at the rule book to say, this is what it is. And one of the things I find so interesting is that from things that I get incorrect is where I learn the most. And I think often I have talked with people who talk about the mistakes they have made, and those haunt them rather than learn from them. And I think that haunt. Well, I think, is that a fair word?
Yes, absolutely. Well chosen.
And I think that the haunting of it has us stuck sometimes in being able to do it again, or to address it the next time that we have it come up. Because I think oftentimes people make what they believe is a mistake. They have an incorrect application of something, and they just beat themselves up and don't always go out and find what was the correct approach so that they can learn and move forward. So when I think that I may have done something incorrectly, I go back to the rule book. I go back to the accepted construction of it and say, what happened? I read the rule and I'm like, now I have new information, or I've reminded myself of information I might have, and I'm allowed to move forward so that I can, the next time it happens, be better prepared. Doesn't mean that I'm always going to get it correct.
Right.
Because again, there will be a million other things happening. If you're in a situation where the game is moving fast and coaches are yelling at you, and the sidelines are yelling at you, and it's a fast break and time is running out, those things may lead you to, once again, incorrectly apply something because you're not able to process. So you're doing the best you can in the moment that you can, even though it might be incorrect.
This is bordering on becoming a women's lacrosse officiating program.
Well, think about it. If you're up
No,
on the stage.
it applies because it's the same thing in other situations. I'm just giving you a hard time. So, Tom,
Well,
do you know your one thing today?
my one thing today about the value of the word mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my one thing is that I believe that many people are comfortable using the word mistake because they feel like it is not as impactful. It's just a little mistake. It's no big deal. We'll correct it. It didn't really have a significant impact on your presentation, on
Right.
and yet it is still a mistake. And I think that judgment, especially because it's usually applied in situations that seem less impactful. And yet I think to the person that we are either saying it to or that someone is saying to us may look at it very differently. And that the word is more impactful than we may think. If someone came in after a game and said, "You just made an awful mistake," I'd be like, "Well, let me think about what did I just do and where was because again, I was doing the best I could in the moment."
Right.
And then they dive into more details and maybe I have a better understanding. Although someone coming in and telling you made a mistake is impactful on people. And I think so often we don't see how much impact that word has.
Okay. I like that. I'm going to go back to one word you said that really struck me, and that's the word haunt. Because I think when I think of mistakes I've made, they do haunt me. And that doesn't help me move forward in any way, shape, or form. So I really think that might be the most compelling argument to me to get rid of the word mistake from my life, because from mistake goes being haunted by that mistake, which means getting stuck, overwhelmed, delayed, all those things that I'm trying so hard to avoid. So I think that it's really weird. You said the word haunt, and I was like, oh, that's such a powerful word. And it's really like, ever since you said it, that's all that's in my head. And I could give you a list of 50 mistakes I've made that still haunt me. 50 would be the short list. The long list would be about 88,309. Not that I've counted lately.
I think, it's one of the things that gives us, and here's the thing. Can you do anything about all those things that you would define as a mistake?
No, I really can't. I did the best I could in the moment.
And now you have the opportunity to move forward and do things differently.
Correct.
So let's focus on that rather than being haunted by a memory that you cannot change. Never. All right, everyone. I think I've got Bob wrapped up and
No, I'm sorry. I'm multitasking this morning.
Bob's multitasking. So that means it's time for us to thank you for being a part of our show today.
Sorry.
And
I
invite
got
you
caught.
that if you have one thing that you'd like to share around this conversation, whether around the value of words that we use, like haunt, or mistake, we'd love to hear it, because we know that that's what's real for you. And while it could add value to us and to others who might be listening. And really, that's what this show is all about, is how do we put our value out there so that we can help and impact others as they take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So please feel free to put that in the comments. And if you'd like to be a part of this conversation and dive into it more, join us in our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where we'll be talking about a word's value all week long. And you can become a part of that conversation and connect and engage with others who are curious about those things and trying to understand what they have done so that they can figure out how to take their next step and spend less time judging. So we look forward to seeing you inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group. If not, we'll see you tomorrow morning, again, 7 a.m. Eastern on this week's early edition. Yeah, you're all excited about that. At 6:29, I was not very happy about 7 a.m. start time.
Mr. Brush, just so you know, I've been up at 5 a.m. all week doing stuff. It's The days are getting long.
It's your choice, correct?
Busy Bob.
Those adjectives. Anyhow. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being a part of us. Go out and make it a great day.
Hey, embrace the renegading you. It's worth it. I promise.
Yeah. And try not to judge the value that people put on things until you have a better understanding and you can communicate with them. And then maybe you can see where they're at.
There you have it.
Go out and have a great day, everyone. We will see you soon. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.